Hit me.
From Studio A in Arcata, behind the redwood curtain, it's time for...
Succotash.
Succotash Clips, the original Comedy Soundcast featuring snippets from comedy...
Soundcasts.
And here's your host from up the coast, practically unknown outside of comedy soundcasting, Comedy Soundcast Soundcaster, Tyson Saner.
Saluton, estas me, Tyson Saner. Welcome to episode 249, which is the first official episode of Season 5 of Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast. That's right, it's Season 5 and the show is no longer being called Succotash Shut-In, as explained last week in episode 248, which was our 10-year anniversary show and featured Marc Hershon, Joe Paulino, Bill Heywatt, and yours truly, in an extra special conversation and trip down memory lane extravaganza. I urge you to check out the episode if you haven't already. I would like to point out that during that conversation I incorrectly stated that I had been contributing to Succotash since 2012. I looked in the archive and it turns out that I sent in 2 clips that were used in the episode from April 30th, 2013, titled Succotash Epi249, Boozin' with Bill, in parentheses, again, which I will link here. Oopsie, at any rate. That means that in 10 days from when this episode is posted, I will have been contributing to this program for 8 years. My apologies for any confusion this may have caused. So, this episode, I've got clips for you from the Soundcasts, The Blood Buddies, Horror Podcast, Whack Brackets, and Day Drinking with Gary and Elliot. I'm also going to include a vintage advertisement from our longtime fake sponsor, Henderson's Pants, for good measure. Let's get to the clippage. First up, The Blood Buddies, Horror Podcast. That is The Blood Buddies, then there's colon, and then Horror Podcast. And it's from Monster Kid Podcasts. Its show description says, "Come join Brian and David every other Friday to discuss a horror movie based off a theme from a roulette wheel." This clip is taken from an episode posted January 18th, 2018, and it's about the movie from 2015 called It Follows. The theme of this episode is movies with rules. So, the episode description says, "Woof, sorry about the late post. We had a bit of technical difficulty halfway through, so we had to finish recording and editing on the day of release. It Follows, from 2015, director David Robert Mitchell, quote, after a strange sexual encounter, a teenager finds herself haunted by nightmarish visions and the inescapable sense that something is after her," unquote. And that source is from RottenTomatoes.com. Additional topics are listed as tattoos, guest stars, and how, quote, it, unquote, can, quote, follow, unquote. So yes, this clip features a dissection of the film's opening moments.
It Follows opens up with, it's about I think it looks like it's dusk. I can't tell if it was...
Yeah,
anyways.
It's definitely like sundown.
Oh yeah. And it's just like this suburban neighborhood, and it shows up to like a house, and suddenly this woman just busts out of the house, and she's wearing lingerie, like some sort of skimpy silken outfit with heels on.
Humongous heels. Oh my gosh.
Like big and like orangey red.
Why is she wearing such giant heels? And just running.
She ran in those better than Bryce Dallas Howard did in Jurassic World. Just saying. I'm really proud of that.
Was she at her house or was she at a neighbor's house?
I was very
I think
confused.
she was at her house. Just because, I think she just, runs in and back out of it.
Because it would have made sense if, she was, all dolled up and, she had just hooked up with somebody and that, the person she hooked up with was, just trying to pass it on to her or something like that.
That was, what I was wondering, because it was, why would you be wearing lingerie and red heels just at home?
Yeah, she must have been at a neighbor's house or something.
But then, was that
Bear
her
with
dad?
Me. Hold on. It Follows. Come on. I have the new Apple TV, so you can Siri. So I'm just gonna check out in the beginning.
So wait, was that her dad?
That was her dad when.
So why would her dad be at some other... Like, was it actually her dad? Did he talk?
Well, no,
or was it...
the first frame of is the neighborhood, and she's, like, just kind of in the street first, right?
Hold on.
And then she runs inside.
I'm watching the beginning real quick. Okay, so it's neighborhood, street, pans to the right.
That's not morning? That's nighttime?
Yeah, and it does look a little more morning. That part doesn't
It's
matter.
sunrise, early sunrise.
Yeah. Okay, so it pulls up to Ferris Bueller looking house. Yeah, no, I think that's the same house. So she's running in grass and heels.
Which, I don't know how her shoes didn't sink in.
So, there's like a whole thing about this movie just in general. We'll probably bring it up a little later. But, hold on. So she talks to the neighbor lady. She's looking.
Okay, so it is her dad.
Yeah. And then she runs. Panning. Or I guess this is more of a tracking shot. Yeah, she just runs into the same house.
So maybe she just brought someone over.
It
I think
could
she
be.
just runs back inside and gets keys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She might have just brought someone over.
Yeah, probably.
I could see that being her pajamas. They're not, like, it's not...
They're not, like, sexy.
Yeah. But,
Necessarily.
like...
The heels
The
are...
heels is really what gets me. Why is she
Ridiculous.
wearing them?
It does... it does have the great title of... Or the song that plays in the background is called Heels. Of course, it was named after the movie was made, but... that... I do find it weird that the official theme of it is, whatever... it's called Heels, which only happens, like, once in the whole movie. But, it is something very fascinating with me, and, one other podcast I actually listened to, they talked about this movie specifically, about how great the soundtrack is, that Disaster Piece was able to make a theme based off of one note. And, like, you can, like, once you first hear it, you instantly recognize it's like, oh, that's when it shows up. And it's just the whole, like, beep, 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 beep. And everything's just, like, crashing at you. I think it's really cool. Anyways, so she's, like, running around. She, like, does, like, a whole circle back into her house, grabs the car keys, and then just takes her dad's car and just fucking drives. And she
drives to the beach?
Yeah, to the beach, and she just calls her dad, and it's like, I love you, I'm sorry that can be such a shit sometimes. You know, and she's like, and she just kind of stares at the car that's parked, like, right in front of her with the lights still blaring. And then...
Let's cut it off there. I don't want to include any more spoilers, and this discussion is essentially a rundown of pretty much the entire movie. I do enjoy listening to these types of film discussion podcasts, but it is sometimes difficult to know where to cut exactly, and that's entirely on me. So I would like to point out that on the Blood Buddies podcast page, which is at their Patreon, which you can find at www.patreon.com/thebloodbuddies, TheBloodBuddies. It says The Blood Buddies is a horror podcast hosted by David, Chris, Stephanie, and Brian. So you may have noticed during the clip that there were extra voices in there, and I'm not sure when it went from its original description to adding more hosts. But then it also says, every week we discuss a horror movie as decided from a roulette wheel of spooky themes. So here's the thing. There is no individual Twitter for Brian, David, Chris, or Stephanie, but you can contact the show at thebloodbuddies.com/contact. And you can reach the show on Twitter. It's the sole Twitter account for the entire program, and that's at The Blood Buddies. And once again, that is THE, this is all lowercase, by the way, BLOODBUDDIES. Next up, Whack Brackets from Smart Acre LLC. In the show description, it says, asking the burning questions you never knew you wanted answered until we asked them. We bring on fellow podcasts and friends of the show to bracket off similar contestants using irrelevant, ever-changing questions, pending FDA approval. So the clip is from an episode from April 11th, very recently. It is episode 58, and it's called Redneck Events with Trashy, Mutton Bustin'. So yes, the episode description says, turn up your country music and grab your natty. We're bracketing off Redneck Events with Erica and Cassandra from the Trashy podcast. The categories include Demolition Derby versus Rodeo and Tractor Pull versus Gun and Knife Show. Now, Succotash has clipped Trashy in the past, and both Erica Curry and Cassandra Cardenas have been guests on Antisocial Show, which I'll talk more about later in this episode. Roll the clip.
Which one of these two events is more likely to bring out your inner redneck after a few too many drinks? Cassandra, drinking your boxed wine. Tell me, which event?
Hands down, gonna go Derby. Demolition Derby is gonna make me rip, roar, and redneck way faster than a rodeo will. The rodeo will likely, make me cry.
Why? Some of those guys are pretty damn hot.
I'm sensitive. I get sad for the animals, and then I get weirded out, and then I get and then I just see the kids, and I'm like, I wonder if they like this or if they're just doing this. But on the Derby, I'm like, fucking crush the cars.
And see, I'm gonna go in a different direction, and I'm gonna go with the rodeo, making Mike break the tie here.
Fuck.
Because if I get drunk enough, I'm gonna want to get on somebody's horse.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask, and you're not going to let me for the horse's sake and for my own sake. And I'm also going to try and mutton bust, which is where they put the little kids on the sheep.
Oh, yeah, that's dope.
I'm going to try and mutton bust myself if I have too many beers, and nobody wants to see that.
Oh, I definitely want to see that. I totally disagree. I'm all in on this.
A sheep would just drag you around?
You're supposed to lay on top of the sheep and grab him by the neck and then try to ride him for a certain length of time. And it's called mutton bustin'.
Yeah, I would just be sad. But you know what? You're a country girl. You grew up around animals. I only know them as, Sarah McLachlan commercials.
Yeah, well, you didn't miss a lot. I'm fortunately not a country boy, but I've grown up around country folk. Being from, as I've mentioned 100 times, the hills of Appalachia, Kentucky is where my family originally resided. So now I am in a quandary to bust this tie because both arguments are good. The thing about the Demolition Derby is that it's kind of stupid. It really is. The purses, from what I understand, if you call them purses, they've recently been raised because for some reason it got a little bit popular. To $10,000 sometimes is a high purse for the winner. I'm like, how the hell do you keep these cars operational and running into each other? And $10,000 is as much as you get. It's just garbage. Now, I did learn a few more things. The 64 to 66 Chrysler Imperial is still banned from most demolition derbies due to the fact that it is almost impenetrable.
Sick.
It apparently is. Yeah, it's just an angry vehicle. It brings the fucking pain to other vehicles. It's pretty impressive. But to me, I'm thinking, if I'm going to sit back and watch shit, if I'm slugging down draft natty light, I'm eating deep fried shit, and I'm yelling at the car that reminds me the most of the old man down the street that has the car in his front yard that has 3 feet of fucking weeds growing through, through the hood. Yeah, this is the event I want to go to. Now, the rodeo, as we mentioned, pretty badass. If you're going to get on 3/4 ton of bovine that's pissed off and trying to throw you off the back with sharp horns, you're a bad motherfucker. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not an angry drunk, but I think I'm a funny drunk. And the problem with me is I start saying dumb shit that I think's funny. Those rodeo guys whoop my ass, and they're in earshot. The Demolition Derby guys, there's so much going on in the engines. They don't hear anything. I can say dumb shit. Those rodeo guys, I say the wrong thing, they're going to fucking whoop my soy boy ass. I want no part of it. So to me, if I'm going to get drunk and shit-faced and say a bunch of shit and get my redneck on, it's going to be at the Demolition Derby. So I'm going to let the Demolition Derby go on to the next round.
All right.
Yeehaw!
Yeehaw! I actually sound like a natural there, don't I? Yeehaw!
Yeah, that's, I can hear the Kentucky.
Don't make fun of my accent, girls.
Never.
Never.
So you can find the show on Twitter at Whack Brackets. That is capital W-A-C-K, capital B-R-A-C-K-E-T-S. You can find the guests. Erica Curry is at Gillygal, that is Gilllygal, and Cassandra Cardenas is at Cass Cardenas, Casscardenes. And host Mike does not have a personal Twitter account, but apparently does take all interactions through at Whack Brackets. So you might as well follow him there and tell him I sent you.
Hello, friends. Bill Heywatt here. Have you ever noticed that once someone gets to the age of 40, they seem to love all things nostalgic? They want to enjoy the comforts of their more stable adult lifestyle, but yearn for the chance to recapture the vigor and carefree nature of their youth. Which is why Henderson's Pants has seized upon the past year's unfortunate streak of airline disasters to launch their newest old product, Henderson's Parachute Pants 2.0. In the 1980s, teenagers got up every morning and pulled on a pair of ripstop nylon pants with more zippers than any garment should ever have. But these pants were all bark and no bite, except around the delicate chafing areas. Not so for Henderson's Parachute Pants 2.0. Unlike those earlier versions, these modern upgrades have an actual parachute sewn into each and every pair. No more fretting over falling to a fiery death inside the fractured hull of some discount foreign airline that can't seem to remember to charge the batteries in their black boxes. Now, if the airliner you're aboard finds itself in distress, simply kick your way clear to an exit door, bash that sucker open, and step with confidence out into the wild blue yonder. Now, when you reach the optimum altitude during your free fall, the built-in altimeter warning in your pants will sound, "Caution, caution," which is your cue to unzip, reach in, and yank your ripcord. You'll then float to Earth just as smooth as the silk that just deployed out of your rear end. Originally designed for Chuck Yeager, Evel Knievel, and the White Knucklers Flying Club, Henderson's Parachute Pants 2.0 are available from the same machines at the airport where you can buy flight insurance. That's Henderson's, makers of fine outer garments for your lower extremities since 1834. And now back to Succotash.
Thank you, Bill Heywatt. Wow, I have not heard that one in some time. Whew. Well, finally tonight, we've got Day Drinking with Gary and Elliot from Audio Up. Its show description says, a cocktails and comedy podcast featuring American comedy treasure Gary Anthony Williams, home mixologist Elliot Blake, and an entire raft of celebrity guests who stop by Gary's house for a daytime tipple. Every episode has an original cocktail, a funny, unrehearsed, heartfelt chit-chat, and sometimes a second cocktail. Subscribe, won't you? I like that. They put that right in the description, reminding people that subscriptions is how people know that their podcasts or soundcasts are doing well. So this clip is from January 18th of 2019. I had to go back a ways. The guest is Dana Snyder, and I really wanted to hear his voice on a soundcast again, seeing as how Safe Space with Dino and Dana is no longer being what's it called? Potted? It's no longer being archived to a listenable form. I don't even know if it's live anymore, but that's another thing. On this soundcast, this is episode 29, and its description says, Master Shake himself, a.k.a. the hilarious Dana Snyder, joins Gary and Elliot for a chat about his career as an Adult Swim mainstay and a unique take on a Gibson cocktail.
Before we stop the show, all right, and keep going down this rummy aggregate.
I should have brought a bottle of rum aggregate.
You did.
Next time.
You've literally done everything right so far. Elliot, but he did not request a rum aggregate when we asked his favorite drink. He said something else.
Vodka Gibson.
A vodka Gibson.
On the rocks.
Right.
Yeah.
But
that's my stock.
That's if you were going on, like if you were about to go on a hiking trip right now, and you're like, I need to take a drink with me on this hike.
Right. You got to stay hydrated. Pack up the Gibsons. Shake them up. Absolutely.
But
that's right.
What you don't know about Elliot is he has his cocktail book he's made, Create 100 Cocktails, a home bar guy's deep dive into the art of cocktail creation. And Elliot Blake has decided to make you something that he thinks you're going to like based solely upon his go-to cocktail.
Yep.
And Elliot has is it an intuition or an out-tuition about
I'm going to say it's an out-tuition.
Okay.
It's an out-tuition. I take it in and then I put it out.
Throw it right out.
Throw it right out.
Nice.
Yeah.
What did you decide to Snyder?
Well, we're going to stay on the Gibson tip. A vodka,
Gibson.
The Debbie Gibson tip.
You made you the Debbie Gibson.
And of course, now the Debbie Gibson reference, the lyrics went right out of my head, so I can't
It's a
actually
Gibson,
make
but
the
it just
joke.
has like sprinkles on the rim.
So this is going to be a vodka Gibson, a tomato water vodka Gibson.
Oh, whoa! Tomato water.
Tomato water. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, "What the hell is tomato water?"
Spaghetti sauce.
There is spaghetti sauce.
Paul
or
Newman,
tomato.
It's a little. It's a little Newman's.
Like when you get all the spaghetti sauce out, you're like, there's a little bit more in there, and I'm not going to throw it away. Then you mix water in a jar and shake it up so you get every last little bit out.
And put it in your Debbie Gibson.
There you go. I'm pulling the tomato water out of the cooler right now.
Oh, okay. So we get to see it.
So you're going to get to see it.
Is this the first time you've ever made a tomato water? It's a light yellow color.
It's really clear.
I did not expect that.
Here, you going to take a picture of that?
Like that? Yeah, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that looks like
so what you do is
a pretty good urine.
To make your own.
No, I mean seriously, like if you hadn't had too much to
right. So to make your own tomato water.
You don't want to talk about
I really don't. Okay. So when you're going to do this is you get some nice tomatoes, ripe tomatoes, and you put them in a food processor or a blender, and you give them a nice blitz to kind of liquefy them, and then you can put them in a big strainer that's either lined with several layers of cheesecloth, or if you're going to use, or you can use like a
sock.
paper. You can use a sock, a dirty sock, if you want to get some flavor.
I used a sock.
For Dana, I used some socks.
Perfect.
No, I used a cone coffee filters. So because they catch all the grinds, right? The grounds from when you're making coffee. So I double stacked the coffee filters and put them over a big jar.
So that's a double filtered tomato.
So it's double filtered tomato water. And so and you put the blitzed stuff into the filter, and then you cover it up and you let it sit in the refrigerator overnight. So basically around 24 hours. And it just filters out, and you get all the essence of the tomato with none of the solids. And so this stuff, and a little pinch of salt, just to kind of help it release all of its juices and just to season it a little bit.
Still, where's the red?
Where's the red?
The red stays behind in the solids. That's why it's just a little bit orange. But if you,
it's yellow, like a light urine.
But if
it's
you
like
smell
a very well hydrated urine.
Yeah, but if you smell it, it doesn't smell like pee at all.
I don't believe it.
It smells.
It smells like fresh tomatoes.
Yeah,
it smells like
Like,
that's
like raw, fresh tomatoes.
It really does.
Yeah, there you go.
Doesn't smell like tomato sauce, spaghetti sauce at all.
So
it's very disappointing.
Okay,
I mean, in a good way.
He loves a tomato sauce.
I was really looking forward to this.
Oh man! All right. Well, next time I'll make you a tomato sauce Gibson.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna make this
another
drink
episode.
now. It's
That's how we do it.
1.5. So the tomato water Gibson is 1.5 ounces of vodka, an ounce of dry vermouth. I like the Dolan dry vermouth. An ounce of the tomato water, 2 dashes of celery bitters, because this is a savory cocktail. I kind of want to enhance that. And then we're going to garnish it with cocktail onion. And I want to just give a shout out to our friend Souther Teague, who was so disappointed when he came on the show in our 4th episode, and he told me that his go-to cocktail was a Gibson, and I didn't have anything that was related to that in my book, and I actually was still writing the book at the time, and he got it like a whiskey drink. And so Souther, at least we finally got a Gibson on the show for you. Next time you're here, we will make you.
And what's the name of this one?
This one's just a tomato water Gibson.
Oh, wait a minute, but Dana Snyder.
A Dana
is the
Snyder
guest.
Gibson.
We need to get a Snyder name to it.
Yeah, we can get another name right now. This is the basic name is tomato water Gibson.
Maybe once we're lubricated with it.
Yeah.
Inspirational.
Yeah. Right now I'm thinking like the Dane Gibson.
Dane Judy Gibson.
Dane Judy. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Dane Juicy Gibson. For the
Dane Juicy Gibson.
This show has not posted an episode since Steely Dan Day of 2020. Steely Dan Day, of course, is May 19. It's not my joke, but I will gladly spread it. In fact, I'm not sure where I first heard that joke. It might have been on Comedy Bang Bang. Might have been Scott Ackerman or Paul F. Tompkins or one of them. If it's not, if anybody knows who originated that joke, let me know. But in the podcasting world, I'm pretty sure I first heard it on either Comedy Bang Bang or perhaps Freedom. It really does feel like something that I heard when Scott Aukerman was on something. But, I listen to lots and lots of soundcasts, so it's hard to say. Anyway, you can find the show on Twitter at Gary and Elliot, and that is capital Gary, capital AND, capital ELLIOT. You can find the guest, Dana Snyder, at all lowercase DANASNYDER. Gary Anthony Williams' Twitter is at capital GARY, capital A, capital WILLIAMS, and Elliot Blake is at all lowercase ELLIOTBLAKE. Well, that's it. The first show of Season 5 in the can and in your ears. Or ear, if it so happens that you only have one. And if you do, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this all the more. Your one ear has to do the work of a person with 2 ears, and I'm not sure if most people that have 2 ears ever even take that into consideration. So for your consideration, I am at least twice as grateful. I think that's how the maths work. I'm pretty sure that's how gratitude works. This next season of Succotash is, as far as I know, going to be released in the same fashion and with the same frequency of Season 4, which is to say, every week for the foreseeable future. So, tune in next week for Epi250 when show creator Marc Hershon is back hosting and bringing you content of clippage, chattage, or really whatever he would like to put in his episode. If you are listening to us through a streaming service of some sort, and you'd like to listen to Succotash the moment it becomes available, you can subscribe to us. I know that is how it works on Stitcher, for example, but I'm not 100% sure about the other methods. Could you do me a favor and check that out for me in case I forget to? I'd appreciate that a great deal. I'd also appreciate it if you'd go to www.tysonsaner.com to find links to music, gaming videos, and the soundcast known as Anti-Social Show, which I co-host with Hunter Block. Recently, Marc Hershon was a guest of Anti-Social Show for Epi249, which is called Word-Like Objects with @Hershko, because @Hershko is Marc Hershon's Twitter account. If you'd like to show him some love there, that's @HERSHCO. Incidentally, if you Google Sounds by Tyson Saner, it is the easiest way to find Anti-Social Show, other than going to the aforementioned TysonSaner.com. Of course, you can find this show's archive at www.succotashshow.com, which is SUCCOTASHSHOW, and feel free to do so. You are almost guaranteed to find something that you'll enjoy listening to. If you in fact do, and you'd like to express your appreciation in some way, we would really appreciate it if you would share us with other people. It's what we mean when we ask you to, please, pass the succotash.
You've been listening to Succotash Clips, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast with your host, Tyson Saner. Brought to you by Henderson's Pants and Imagine Your Company's name right here. Find us on the web at succotashshow.com, on iTunes, on Stitcher Smart Radio, on SoundCloud, on YouTube, on Dunder, on Blitzen, on iHeartRadio, and on a laughable app. You can hear us streaming and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Succotash Show. Email us at TysonSaner@succotashshow.com. Or call into the Succotash hotline at our toll call number, 818-921-7212.
That number again is 818-921-7212.
You can also upload clips from your favorite comedy soundcasts directly to us by using our direct upload link at hightail.com/u/succotash. Production of Succotash is overseen by Joe Paulino through the auspices of Studio P Sausalito, hosted by Tyson Saner. Our executive producer is Marc Hershon. Our musical director is Scott Carvey. Our booth assistant is Kenny Durges. Until next time, I'm your loyal booth announcer, Bill Heywatt, reminding you to please pass the Succotash. Goodbye. This has been a Succotash Patch production.